Reading 74 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Maurice Nicoll. Volume 2. Quaramide, Ugle, May 5th, 1945. The situation today. In regard to the general situation in the world at this moment, what does the work teach? Many feel that everything will soon be quite different and that various conferences, agreements, and so on will permanently alter the future. They think exactly in the way that the majority of people thought at the termination of the last great European war. It is not beyond the question to say that in this new war that has touched the civilian population so deeply, people may naturally expect a better restatement of the future and a better order arising out of the universally shared suffering. Let us examine this idea from the work side and see what the work teaches about humanity on this minute planet. Let us particularly examine wrong attitude. As you know, scientific men, astronomers, mathematicians, and so on, take the attitude that this minute speck, the Earth, is the only inhabited point in the infinitely vast creation of millions and millions of galaxies, suns, and planets. What do you think of this mental attitude? Here on this small Earth, we are first of all an insignificant point in the Milky Way, a galaxy of billions of suns, some of gigantic size. And again, our galaxy is only one of millions of other more gigantic galaxies, or sun clusters. You know that earlier scientific thought viewed the vast universe of celestial bodies as all turning round our minute Earth. We were the center. Certainly, to the evidence of the senses, it seems as if the sun went round and round the earth, and all the hosts of heaven, all the constellations, all the galaxies, and innumerable suns which compose them. When it was discovered that the earth, by its own rotation, makes it appear that the heavens turn round it, and that our sun rises and sets, the idea was treated with contempt and hatred. People said and felt that we on this earth were the most important thing, and all the rest, all the stars, served us, so to speak. Is this egotism? Is it not a wrong attitude? Is it not a remarkable form of conceit and vanity? As I said, even now scientists teach that it is improbable that any life exists save on this speck of dust, our Earth. I repeat, is this some extraordinary vanity? Some total lack of understanding of our own relative importance? I see no signs of this viewpoint, this mental attitude, changing today. We seem to imagine apparently that we are the only real living point in the inconceivable vastness of the creation. Now the work teaches that the whole of creation is living and that we are almost insignificant, almost totally unimportant, and that if our earth blew up, it would not be noticed or make any difference. Sometimes people say to me that they are not interested in cosmic diagrams as the ray of creation, although the psychological teaching is interesting. But this work, like all esoteric teaching, connects man with the universe in which he appears. To study him by himself, apart from the universe, is erroneous and cannot give the right emotions. Man, as a microcosmos, a minute world, represents in himself the macrocosmos or great universe. The one is modeled on the other. They are in correspondence, and nothing is in man that is not in the universe. And just as the sun is greater than the earth and the earth is greater than the moon, so are there psychological levels, lower and higher, lesser and greater, in man, representing moon, earth, and sun. That is, corresponding internally with these external sense-seen beings, moon, earth, and sun. Now you know from what is taught, and perhaps know through self-observation, that pride and vanity are two giants that keep us asleep and that walk in front of us and decide everything beforehand. Here notice, please, a man who admires himself. Is he asleep? Suppose, then, that you are a person who is scientifically convinced that only this earth is peopled and that the rest of the universe is dead matter. Will this help you to deal with these formidable giants that take charge of us and actually ruin everything for us? I do not see that this standpoint can do otherwise than swell up our self-importance and keep up the unreal side, the false personality, that characterizes our present level of being. However, sometimes we look at the stars and feel our own smallness. Science should have increased our sense of wonder. It has done the reverse. It has no message save that everything is meaningless. This decrease in meaning, and therefore in understanding, is noticeable on all sides. This results in the loss of certain emotions necessary to man for his right development. You can call such emotions by what names you like, but they all have the effect of making a man feel that he is a very small creature, and that opens him internally to the possible action of higher centers in him, which constantly seek to send him messages. Egoism stunts a man internally and turns him outwards into objects, into things, into the body, into the external sense-given world, which is only one side of a man. This is one way of understanding what the work means when it says that today man is one-sided. So man sees the solution of everything today as lying only outside himself and not in self-change, in manufacturing more machines, more objects, more complex things outside himself, and not in an increase of consciousness or an increase of understanding. And so machines make war on him. You may be quite certain that the next war will soon arise from new machines of which we can catch a glimpse already. Man, with his characteristic violence, his lack of understanding and self-observation, is already busied with new destructive machines and at the same time attending conferences to produce peace. This is a lack of consciousness, an incapability of seeing contradictions in himself. This incapability, this lack of consciousness, is one of the signs of our level of being. The object of the work of all esoteric teaching, of the Gospels, is to increase consciousness, and this begins by seeing what you are like for yourself, penetrating the dark side that lies beyond the pretense of false personality. This is the first point, namely that with our present lack of consciousness, with our present level of being, it is impossible to stop war. Only by an increase in consciousness can war be stopped. Our level of being attracts our life, so humanity attracts war. The next point is that the work teaches that man cannot do. Everything happens in the only possible way it can happen. Everything is going to go in the only way it can go, and nothing can prevent it. Yes, but one thing must be added. If mankind awoke from sleep, then everything would go differently. Why? Because if people began to see, to awaken, to become more conscious, their level of being would change, and so Another order of things would be attracted by them, and war and many other things would cease. If a man lived on a higher level of himself, everything would change. One thing would be that he would cease to be violent. He would overcome his own violence. The third point is that sleeping humanity on this earth is used. The suffering, pain, illness, violence, the killing, hatreds, revenge, and so on are being used for certain purposes by something outside the earth. A man can escape from this by certain kinds of useful suffering that awaken him. But I will not speak more of this point here. The fourth point is that our general level of being is characterized by lying, and that this makes any real agreement impossible. Mr. O once said that we should study lying in all its forms, our own lying and lying in general. He said we really need instruction on the subject of lying. That is, we must realize and study lying and its terrific power. On one occasion, he remarked that the formatory part, from one angle, could be thought of as being given to us to lie with. Now, how can you get anything right if you and everyone else lie? Lying characterizes our level of being, and so it is one of the things which must change if our level of being is to be changed. I will make some brief notes on lying to remind you of what has been previously said. Nothing is what it pretends to be. Begin with yourself. Are you what you pretend to be? I mean, seriously, do you think so? Again, look at a peacock strutting. Is it a lie? Then look at yourself. Again, all propaganda is organized lying. Officialdom is packed with lies from top to bottom. All politics is based on lying, not necessarily clever. When one speaks, one lies usually. Even to say I is lying. For which I do you mean? The whole apparatus for lying, the machinery for its propaganda has been enormously increased in this century. What is the radio used for? It has been extensively and often only used for the propaganda of lies. Imagine how much work would have to be done, what effort would be needed to make humanity able to see through propaganda, newspapers, films, radio, and resist their lies. People let their very souls become absorbed in films about imaginary people and imaginary life. It is all lies. It is a very good thing, however, to resist a film by not identifying with it. Then the strange force working on the imagination does not eat you. A great many things could be added about lying, such as that all negative states are due to lies and produce only lies. A last point that I will make is that we forget very easily. People forget what things they were like once, and also new people are growing up. People forget what things were like once, and also new people are growing up. This makes war very soon possible again. If we were all more conscious, then war would cease. But this is impossible. It is impossible for everyone to be more conscious. It is a matter of the greatest difficulty for one person to become more conscious. You have noticed how all people who have taken momentary charge of the world base themselves on war. All the Hasnamus type, those whose well-being depends on the ill-being of others, all dictators ground themselves on war. It shows how deeply man's level of being attracts war, and how the disease of war is in man, and due to his own state. Since man's level of being is the same as it was, then everything will go in the only possible way in which it can go at that level, and no one will be able to do anything. G said once, "Everything is being done in the only way it can be done. If one thing could be different, everything could be different. And then perhaps there would have been no war. Everything is dependent on everything else. Everything is connected. Nothing is separate. Therefore, everything is going in the only way it can go. If people were different, everything would be different. They are what they are, so everything is as it is.